Okay, this is just a brief introduction to kind of extend an idea in an exercise set that you can use for a video I did actually just a few minutes ago showing chord shapes, dominant chord shapes with consonant color tones added into them, 6s and 13s. This is, there are 3 pages called Major Modal Scales and Dominant Chords through the cycle, page 1, 2, and 3, that are basically just help us get the modal scale shapes and dominant chords under our fingers so that we can play through things. Remember, a dominant chord is really just a 2-5. I mean, there's very little tension. If we were looking at a C, C9, or C7, if you want to think of it that way, it's really just D minor 7 to C. In jazz, you can substitute a 2-5 every time you see a 5, basically. Not every time, but most times. And of course, that's not right. G minor to C7. We're playing the key center of F. But so you can play a G minor to C7, and that is a substitute for just a static C7, as you see. But that's an aside. I didn't even need to go that direction. Basically, the whole point of this exercise is to get you to play through dominant chordal shapes with color tones and see what I call my modal scales, octave and a third, in that area, so you can play through a cycle of dominant 7 chords without having to go, as an example, C7, F7, C7, F7, and then through the cycle B flat, E flat, A flat, etc., etc. Tune. Anyway, and some of you may notice this is a banjo with a wood head on it. It's just something I've been working on for the past few years. Something kind of fun. You're able to play my banjo and drop a wood head into it and get a little different tone. Put some guitar pickups on it, and it sounds kind of cool. So I think. So anyway, this is getting through cycle of fourths. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the exercises you see on these 3 sheets. For those of you who don't have access to the sheets, they're in my pictures page on the Banjo Hangout and my photos page, and they're pretty self-explanatory. I think you're looking at them as if you're looking at a banjo neck from your perspective, as if you laid the banjo up at you like this. You're seeing those shapes on the fingerboard. Anyway, here it is. First chord, C7 or C9, and I'm going to play C mixolydian. Now I'm going to shift my hand just a little bit and play F7 and play C Dorian. Which, by the way, is F mixolydian. Same thing. But I'm going to call them their modal scale shapes. Just for clarity, hopefully. So again, starting over. Those are the first 2. The third one is, and that's a B flat 9. And a C Aeolian scale. E flat 13 and a C Phrygian scale. page is going to be an A flat or G sharp 9 and C Locrian. Next one, D flat 9. And we're going to play B Lydian. Then we're going to play G flat 7, add 13. And B major. Stopping at this point and just explaining the idea. Basically, we can play a B major scale because G flat 7 is the 5 chord, F sharp, and we're playing a 7 chord based on a G flat. So we're playing this scale, our note set. Right? Then the next chord will be B9, and I'm going to play B Mixolydian. Next page, page 3. The next one is going to be an E7, and I'm going to play B Dorian. The next one is going to be an A9, and I'm going to play B Aeolian. The next one's going to be D9. Actually, it's this. Yeah, it's going to be D13, not D9. Key of G major. So B Phrygian. Then a G9, C major or B Locrian. And that brings us all the way back down around to C again. So chordally, your choices could be C, F. It could be any of these voicings that I use, but I'll just play some. C, F, B flat, etc. Yeah. So you can see how you can keep your hand in one position there and then play through scales like this. Through the whole cycle, and we're back to a dominant chord. There's 7 different scales for 7 different keys for 7 different dominant chords, or 7 different 2/5s. And this time I'll talk through them a little bit. There's a pattern: C Mixolydian, now we play C Dorian, and now that's the 7 of the new chord. So listen to this. So you get that sound. Then from Dorian you go to Aeolian. That's the 7 of the new chord. Then from Aeolian to Phrygian. And every added in note is the 7 of the new dominant chord. So, where was I? Aeolian, Phrygian. Next one is Locrian. So that's the 7 of the new chord. And then Lydian. and then Ionian, and then back to mix. So again, mix, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, Locrian, Lydian, Ionian, Mixolydian. And those just keep going on all the way down the fingerboard. You can play through those over and over and over and over and over and over again, that series. And you're playing through a cycle of dominance. And what I do to solidify it in my head is I learn the scales first. I learn, basically you're just applying a new one of my modal scale shapes, or play it any way you want to, in an area of the fingerboard, and find the note that changes in the new chord, and then find that modal scale around that. Mine are just easy to remember because they all have the exact same pattern, they all have the exact same number of notes per strings and things like that. For me, they're easy. Then associating a chord shape around them is very important, because then you can actually see and once you see that series of changes. Again, I'm trying not to be too specific about the chord shapes you use, because I know everybody's not going to use what I have, but you can play them like this if you want. Doesn't matter really what it's hearing the chord, seeing a chordal shape, and associating an ability to play through those scales. It helps you in an awful lot of ways, because in jazz you play through 2/5s. Every 2/5 can be in a real vanilla kind of a coloring, can be one of those modal scale shapes, and it kind of helps you to see how to get through the fingerboard in one area without constantly shifting all over the place. Anyway, that's the lesson.